When everything falls apart, a family's story of survival. The camera captured what words often fail to express, a family holding on by a thread. Mark and Sarah Henderson sat on their living room couch, their 2 daughters behind them, in what would become the most vulnerable moment of their lives shared with the world. This wasn't a carefully staged photo shoot. This was raw reality, frozen in time. The collapse. Just 18 months earlier, the Hendersons were living comfortably in suburban Michigan. Mark worked as an engineer at an automotive supplier, a job he'd held for 9 years. Sarah balanced part-time work as a dental hygienist with raising their daughters, 9-year-old Chloe and 7-year-old Mia. They weren't wealthy, but they were secure. They had a modest home, reliable cars, and enough left over for family vacations and the girls' activities. Then the dominoes started falling. It began with Mark's back injury, a herniated disc that progressively worsened until he could barely stand for more than 20 minutes. Surgery was recommended, but the recovery time was 6 months. Mark took medical leave, expecting to return to work once he healed. He never got that chance. While Mark was recovering, his company lost their major contract. Layoffs swept through the organization like wildfire. Mark received the news while still in physical therapy. His position had been eliminated. After 9 years of dedication, he was out. The timing couldn't have been worse. Mark was still recovering, unable to take on physical work. Sarah increased her hours, but her part-time income couldn't cover their mortgage, car payments, insurance, and mounting medical bills. Their savings evaporated within 3 months. The downward spiral Sarah watched their life unravel with horrifying speed. First, they missed a mortgage payment, then another. Credit card minimums became impossible to meet. The car was repossessed on a Tuesday morning while Chloe and Mia watched from the living room window, confused and frightened. "Where's Daddy's car going?" Mia asked, her small voice trembling. Sarah didn't know how to explain that they couldn't afford to keep it anymore. How do you tell a 7-year-old that everything they've known as stable is crumbling? Mark spiraled into depression. The physical pain from his injury was manageable compared to the emotional agony of watching his family suffer because he couldn't provide. He applied for jobs obsessively, but the market was saturated with experienced engineers, many younger and willing to work for less. The rejection emails became a daily torture. Sarah tried to hold everything together, but the weight was crushing. She worked longer hours, took on extra shifts, and spent her nights calculating numbers that never added up to anything hopeful. She stopped sleeping well. She stopped eating regularly. Her smile, once so easy, became something she had to consciously construct for her daughter's sake. The girls noticed everything. Chloe, perceptive and sensitive, started having nightmares. Mia became clingy and anxious, crying at drop-offs and struggling in school. The stress in their home was palpable, hanging in the air like smoke. Rock bottom. The foreclosure notice arrived 6 months after Mark lost his job. They had 60 days to leave their home, the place where both girls had taken their first steps, where birthday parties and Christmas mornings had created a tapestry of happy memories. Sarah found Mark in the garage, sitting in the dark, the notice crumpled in his hand. His shoulders shook with silent sobs. "I've destroyed our family," he whispered. "Everything we built. I destroyed it." "No," Sarah said firmly, kneeling beside him. "Life destroyed it. Bad luck destroyed it. But we're still here, Mark. We're still a family. That's what matters." But even as she said the words, Sarah wasn't sure she believed them. How could they be a family without a home? How could they protect their children from this trauma? How could they survive? They swallowed their pride and asked for help. Sarah's brother offered his basement, unfinished, cramped, but free. They moved in with 3 suitcases of belongings, most of their possessions sold or stored. The girls shared an air mattress. Mark and Sarah slept on a donated futon. Privacy was non-existent. Dignity felt like a luxury they'd lost along with everything else. The turning point. That's when Live on Purpose, a nonprofit organization focused on family resilience, reached out. They were documenting families navigating financial hardship, and someone had connected them with the Hendersons. "We want to show that good families can face bad circumstances," the program director explained. "Your story could help others feel less alone." Mark was reluctant. Wasn't it bad enough to be living this nightmare without broadcasting it to the world? But Sarah saw it differently. If our pain can help even one family feel less ashamed, isn't it worth it? She asked. So they agreed to the photo and interview. The day of the shoot, they borrowed Sarah's brother's couch, trying to create a sense of normalcy. Mark wore a button-down shirt. Sarah put on makeup for the first time in weeks. They wanted to look put together, even though they felt shattered. But the photographer asked them to just be real. Don't perform, she said gently, just be. So they sat together, exhausted, worried, but still united. Chloe and Mia positioned themselves behind their parents, instinctively seeking the comfort of closeness. The camera captured the weariness in Mark's eyes, the determined set of Sarah's jaw, the innocence of children affected by circumstances beyond their understanding. The tips that saved them. In the interview, the Hendersons shared the hard-won wisdom from their darkest period. Communicate honestly. We started telling each other the truth about how scared we were, Sarah explained. That vulnerability brought us closer instead of driving us apart. Ask for help early. We waited. Too long, Mark admitted. By the time we asked for help, we were in crisis. Don't let pride delay reaching out to family, friends, or community resources. Focus on controllables. I couldn't control the job market or our financial situation, Mark said. But I could control my attitude and my commitment to my family. That focus saved me from complete despair. Protect your relationship. In crisis, it's easy to become roommates managing problems instead of partners supporting each other, Sarah noted. We had to intentionally connect, even when we were exhausted. Be age-appropriately honest with kids. Our girls knew something was wrong, Sarah said. Being honest helped reduce their anxiety and taught them about resilience. Redefine success. Success became getting through another day together, Mark explained. Small victories matter when you're in survival mode. Find purpose in pain. We chose to let this experience teach us rather than destroy us, Sarah said. That choice made all the difference. The response. When their story went public, the response overwhelmed them. Thousands of people shared similar experiences: job loss, medical crisis, foreclosure. The messages poured in from families who had felt alone in their shame and suddenly realized they weren't. Thank you for your bravery, one message read. You helped me ask my family for help instead of losing everything first. Your story saved my marriage, another person wrote. We were blaming each other. Seeing your unity gave us hope. More tangibly, Mark received job leads from people who saw the story. One led to an interview, which led to a position as a project coordinator. Not his old salary, but enough to start rebuilding. Where they are now, a year after that photo was taken, the Hendersons moved into a small rental house. It's modest, but it's theirs. The girls have their own room again. Sarah and Mark sleep in an actual bedroom with a door that closes. Mark's job isn't glamorous, but it's stable. Sarah continues working, and they're slowly paying down debt. They'll probably never own a home again, at least not for many years. Their credit is damaged, their savings non-existent, their retirement plans derailed. But they're together, they're surviving, and slowly, carefully, they're beginning to believe in the possibility of thriving again. Chloe still worries more than a 10-year-old should. Mia has separation anxiety. Mark battles depression. Sarah struggles with financial PTSD, panicking at unexpected expenses. Recovery isn't linear or complete. The scars remain, but so does the love. So does the resilience. So does the family that refused to break, even when everything else did. The message: if the Hendersons could speak to families in crisis today, they would say this: you are not alone. You are not failures. Your struggle doesn't define your worth or your family's value. Ask for help. Be honest with each other. Focus on what you can control. Celebrate small victories. Choose purpose over victimhood. These tips won't solve all your problems. They won't pay your bills or eliminate your stress, but they might help you survive with your family intact, your dignity preserved, and your hope still flickering. And sometimes survival is enough. Sometimes survival is everything. The photo of the Henderson family remains a powerful testament to the strength of ordinary people facing extraordinary hardship. Behind the weary eyes and brave faces is a story that thousands of American families live every day, a story of loss, struggle, perseverance, and the enduring power of family love. They didn't choose this struggle, but they chose how to face it. That choice changed everything.
Something like rage. The next day, Marcus started drinking. Someone in the landfill community always had something: cheap vodka, homemade wine, pills. It started as just a way to sleep, to quiet the voices in his head that told him he had failed, that his mother had died for nothing, that he had destroyed his family. But addiction is a patient predator, and it feeds on despair. Within weeks, Marcus was trading the recyclables he collected not for food, but for alcohol. Sarah watched him disappear inside himself, becoming a ghost wearing her husband's face. She tried to stop him, pleaded with him, threatened to leave. But where would she go? They were already at the bottom. There was no further to fall. Tommy stopped talking around this time, not completely, but almost. The bright, curious boy who had asked a million questions, who had loved dinosaurs and superheroes, retreated into himself. He stayed close to Sarah, always within arm's reach, his eyes too old for his young face. Sometimes Sarah would catch him staring at the sky, and she wondered what he was thinking. Did he remember their old life? Did he dream of birthday parties and Christmas mornings? Or had this become his normal, his only reality? The school district had tried to help. A social worker named Janet had come to the landfill twice, navigating the terrain in her practical shoes and county-issued windbreaker. She talked about programs, about shelters specifically for families, about getting Tommy enrolled in school. She was kind, genuinely kind. But Sarah saw in her eyes what she tried to hide: pity mixed with helplessness. The programs were full. The waiting lists were years long. The system was overwhelmed, drowning in cases just like theirs. "You're doing the best you can," Janet had said, squeezing Sarah's hand. "I know it doesn't feel like it, but Tommy knows you love him. That matters. That matters more than anything." Sarah had nodded, but she didn't believe it. Love wasn't enough. Love didn't feed her son. Love didn't give him a bed or an education or a future. Love was just another luxury they couldn't afford. The photograph was taken on the worst day. It started with a fight. Marcus had disappeared for 2 days, off on a bender with some of the other men from the landfill. When he returned, stumbling and incoherent, Sarah had finally broken. All the fear, all the frustration, all the rage she had been swallowing came pouring out. "Look at us," she had screamed, not caring who heard. "Look at what you've done. Your son is living in garbage, Marcus, garbage, and you're drinking away what little we have." "What I've done," Marcus had shouted back, his words slurred but his pain crystal clear. "I killed myself for this family. I worked until I couldn't see straight. I gave up everything for my mother, for you, for Tommy, and it wasn't enough. Nothing I do is enough." "So you gave up? You just decided to quit? What do you want from me, Sarah? What do you want? I've got nothing left. There's nothing left to give. I want you to be a father. I want you to be a man." The words hung in the air like a physical blow. Marcus's face crumbled, and for a moment, Sarah saw the man she had married, the man who had held her on their wedding day and promised forever. Then the moment passed, and the stranger was back. "I'm going to fix this," Marcus had said, his voice quiet and cold. "I'm going to fix everything." He had walked away, and Sarah had let him go, too angry and too tired to chase after him. She pulled Tommy close, this child who had witnessed everything, who had heard every word. That's when they heard the commotion, voices shouting, people running. Sarah stood up, instinctively positioning herself between Tommy and whatever was happening. Through the maze of garbage and makeshift shelters, she saw Marcus climbing one of the massive piles, the unstable mountains of waste that could shift and collapse without warning. "Marcus! Marcus, stop!" she screamed, but he kept climbing, scrambling up the slope, garbage sliding beneath his feet. When he reached near the top, he turned to face her, his arms spread wide like a messiah or a madman. "I'm going to fix this," he shouted down. "Insurance money, Sarah! You'll get insurance money! You and Tommy will be okay!" The understanding hit Sarah like ice water. "No, Marcus, no, please!" She started running, Tommy screaming in her arms. But the landfill is treacherous terrain, and in her panic she stumbled. Tommy fell, scraping his hands and knees. She grabbed him, pulled him to her chest, and that's when she saw him, a man with a camera, a journalist or photographer, one of those people who came periodically to document the poverty they would return to their comfortable homes to forget. He was pointing his camera at her, at Tommy, at Marcus still perched on his mountain of garbage and despair. "Mama, what's Daddy doing?" Tommy cried, his voice breaking her heart into smaller pieces. "It's okay, baby. It's okay," she lied, holding him tighter. Marcus stood on top of the world's waste, this man in a blue suit that had once meant something, and Sarah saw him hesitate. He looked down at them, at his wife and son, and she saw the war happening behind his eyes. Life or death. Hope or surrender. One more day or no more days. For a long, terrible moment, the whole world held its breath. Then Marcus started climbing down, not confidently, not decisively, but moving, coming back, coming down from the edge in every sense of the word. Sarah couldn't move. She could only hold Tommy and watch as Marcus navigated the treacherous slope, sliding and stumbling but descending. The photographer kept shooting, his camera clicking like a metronome marking time in their tragedy. When Marcus reached them, he fell to his knees in front of his family. "I'm sorry," he sobbed. "God, I'm so sorry. I don't know how to save us." "I don't know what to do." Sarah pulled him into their embrace, the three of them kneeling in garbage and waste, holding each other like drowning people clutching debris. "We'll figure it out," she whispered, not believing it but needing to say it. "We'll figure it out together." The photograph captured that moment. Sarah holding Tommy, both of them dirty and terrified, with Marcus approaching in the background, his suit incongruous against the landscape of waste. It would later win awards, spark conversations, maybe even inspire some temporary outrage about poverty in America. But for the family in the image, it was just Thursday. Weeks later, after the photo went viral, help came. A lawyer who had seen the image contacted them, helping to negotiate Marcus's medical debt down to a manageable number. A nonprofit organization secured them temporary housing. Marcus entered a treatment program. Sarah got a job as a home health aide, not nursing but close enough to feel like herself again. Tommy started school, slowly learning to smile again, though the nightmares would persist for years. They had climbed out of the landfill, literally and figuratively. But they weren't saved. They weren't fixed. They were just surviving, one day at a time, carrying the weight of what they had endured like stones in their pockets. The American dream promises that hard work and determination will lead to prosperity, that good people will be rewarded, that the system works. But Sarah had learned a harder truth. The distance between middle class and homeless is not measured in poor choices or moral failings. It's measured in medical bills, in one bad break, in the catastrophic collision of love and loss and a society that treats healthcare as a privilege and poverty as a personal failure. On quiet nights, when Tommy was asleep and Marcus was at his meeting, Sarah would take out the printed photograph. Someone had mailed them a copy, perhaps thinking they would want it. She would stare at her own face, at the terror and desperation and love captured in that moment, and she would try to remember what. It felt like to believe that effort equaled outcome, that they were safe, that they were protected by the social contract they had been taught to trust. The landfill still exists. The people still live there, making homes in waste, surviving in the richest nation in the world. Sarah knows their names now, their stories. Hundreds of stories just like hers, thousands, maybe millions. People who worked hard and played by the rules and still fell through the cracks wide enough to swallow lives. This is America. This happens here, to people like them, to people like anyone. And somewhere right now another family is standing on the edge, one crisis away from falling, not knowing yet that the distance between their life and the landfill is so much shorter than they ever imagined possible.